Welcome to the second show of In His Bag. This episode is pretty much going to be mostly NFL, recapping the Super Bowl, NFL honors over the weekend. There are a bunch of coaching changes as well, so let's get straight into it. Cue the intro.
Tedeschi dentro sotto per Dybala, attenzione, va la gioia di Dybala!
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang!
We're going to start out with the coaching changes. The first change that happened is a legendary Eagles offensive line coach, Jeff Stoutland, will not be coaching the Eagles offensive line, but he will stay around the organization. It's reported that Sean Mannion will bring in his own people. This pretty much marks the end of an era for the Eagles. Jeff Stoutland is a legend in the NFL. You can listen to countless podcasts talking about how he shaped the Eagles offensive line, his revolutionary ideas. Jason Kelce talks about him nonstop as well. Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson too. So this is a major step away from what the Eagles have done in the past, and it'll be interesting to see what Sean Mannion does and who he brings in, but also how this affects the Eagles' offensive line and pass protection. Last year, the Eagles didn't exactly have a great pass protection after their Super Bowl, and on top of that, Saquon didn't have the best rushing year either. So maybe this move reinvigorates the offensive line. They play to a much higher level than they were playing in 2024. But I'm not exactly sure what level that'll be. But nevertheless, Stoutland is staying within the organization. So there is a chance that he will still have a say with all the drafting and recruiting process that will happen with the Eagles to maintain a sort of continuity in the offensive line room and between the coaches as well. After that, former offensive coordinator of the Jets, Nathaniel Hackett, will be, or no, not for the Jets, for the Broncos. He was their head coach, not even. He will be the offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals. He was a coordinator for 3 seasons in Green Bay. He was hired in Denver when they were chasing after Aaron Rodgers in that disastrous Russell Wilson season. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him because during his time with the Broncos, it was an absolute disaster class. On top of that, he was fired. Everyone was calling for his job. Even with the Jets, he didn't do a great job. To be fair, there was the entire power struggle between Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh during that time. So I'm not a huge fan of this move, but they did bring in Mike LaFleur, Matt LaFleur's younger brother. So maybe there is some connection there, but also I believe that Mike LaFleur will probably be calling his own plays and that Hackett will kind of be there to sort of delegate the offense and make sure things are organized rather than actually being a play caller. But overall, I'm not the biggest fan of this move for the Cardinals. After that, the Steelers brought in Vikings passing game coordinator Brian Angelico as their new offensive coordinator. He was also the tight ends coach back in his time with Mike McCarthy when they were in Green Bay. Like I said, he worked with Mike McCarthy, so this is a familiarity hire for McCarthy and the Steelers because even with the Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, he's calling all his own plays. He is not letting his passing game coordinator call the plays. It'll be interesting to see what exactly plays out there. As I mentioned in the coaching changes episode, Mike McCarthy is probably going to end up leading the Steelers to a 9-8 season. Very middle of the pack, very average. And this move doesn't move me all that much. And then the Jets made an interesting move. They hired former Colts and Panthers head coach Frank Reich to be their offensive coordinator. He was working with Stanford. This is an interesting move. I honestly am not that opposed to it overall. He has the coaching experience, clearly. He's coached for a long, long time, but also the Jets don't exactly have the talent on the offense. So this also has the potential to be a one and done type of hire. There is a very real chance that this is a one and done hire, which I don't like, but if they can figure out their quarterback situation with it could be a good move. He could potentially bring out Garrett Wilson, but we'll see. And then the Giants. They're hiring former Chiefs offensive coordinator Matt Nagy to be their OC. Um, Honestly, this is a so hire. The Chiefs' offense wasn't exactly great under Matt Nagy. And to be fair, Matt Nagy is not calling plays in Kansas City. That is Andy Reid and solely Andy Reid. It's true that he's worked with Mahomes, but we can't draw comparisons between Mahomes and Jackson Dart. This is a very mid pickup. Not a huge fan of it. He's not one of these young offensive guru minds that people want nowadays. He's an older coach that isn't exactly going to innovate and bring new things to the table. So that's another reason why I don't like it, especially considering the young players you have. You have Jackson Dart, you have Malik Neighbors, you have Scattaboo there, which are all young players. So if you bring in this older style, it won't exactly fit into the younger players who want to innovate and could potentially bring changes. But then again, it's not horrible. He could, let's just say, the Giants and Harbaugh could have done a lot worse than this. And then a final move: the Titans hire Gus Bradley as their defensive coordinator. As Saleh adds a trusted piece to his staff, Bradley, he worked with the 49ers. This is a good move overall. I think Saleh is building out a very good coaching staff. There are already reports that Cam Ward likes his offensive coordinator and Brian Daboll. So I think the Titans and Robert Saleh are doing great things over there. And then continuing with the NFL, but shifting to NFL honors that happened last night. The NFL announced a 2026 Hall of Fame class that includes Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, Adam Vinatieri, Roger Craig, and Luke Kuechly. I'm going to start off talking about Larry Fitzgerald. He is an absolute legend. Second all-time in receiving catches. I believe there's an insane stat out there. He has more tackles than he does drops. And that's impressive considering the list of quarterbacks he's had. I am going to list all 22. You heard that right. 22 quarterbacks. Josh McCown, Sean King, John Navar, Kurt Warner, Tim Ratty, Matt Leinart, Brian St. Pierre, Derek Anderson, Kevin Kolb, Matt Hall, John Skelton, Richard Bartell, Brian Hoyer, Ryan Lindy, Carson Palmer, Drew Stanton, Blaine Gabbert, Josh Rosen, Sam Bradford, Brett Hundley, Mike Glennon, and Kyler Murray. 22 quarterbacks over the span of his career. which is absolutely insane when you think about it. What's even crazier is that over the course of his career, Larry Fitzgerald has racked up 17,492 receiving yards and 121 touchdowns. His inauguration was truly heartwarming because if you watch the video, he is told that he's elected to the Hall of Fame by Randy Moss. And for those who don't know, Larry Fitzgerald was a ball boy for the Minnesota Vikings when Randy Moss was there. So that's a truly, truly heartwarming connection right there. And I love that. And then we'll talk about Drew Brees. Drew Brees is the most accurate quarterback in NFL history. He is a Saints legend. A lot of people don't like him, surprisingly. However, he is an amazing player. He's Walter Payton Man of the Year, 13-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl MVP, comeback player of the year, two-time offensive player of the year. He has a career completion percentage of 67.7%. He's thrown 80,000 yards, 571 touchdowns. He's just absolutely insane. The whole city of New Orleans loves him. He is the prodigal son for New Orleans. And it was just, as a New Orleans Saints fan, it was just amazing to see my quarterback, the quarterback I fell in love with and became a Saints fan because of, be elected to the Hall of Fame. And this really means a lot to me, and it means a lot to all the Saints fans who live and root for the Saints every day. After that, Adam Vinatieri was also elected to the Hall of Fame. He is the all-time leader in points, and he's a four-time Super Bowl champion. He's played for the Patriots and the Colts. Absolute legendary career. He's made 750, or he's attempted 751 and 15 field goals. He's made 599. He's an absolute best kicker of all time. It doesn't matter what people say about Justin Tucker. Adam Vinatieri is the best of all time when it comes to kickers. And then we go to Roger Craig. Roger Craig is a 49ers legend. He's the first player ever in NFL history to have 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards rushing in the same season. He's a three-time Super Bowl champ, four-time Pro Bowler. He's played for the 49ers, the Raiders, and the Vikings. Like I said, absolute insane numbers over the course of his career. In the 85 season, he rushed for 1,050 yards and had 1,016 receiving yards. He's just an absolute legend. A lot of people don't talk about him enough, but I believe he was an all-time great. I grew up in the Bay Area, so I heard stories about Roger Craig and those 80s and 90s 49ers teams. And then the last player elected to the Hall of Fame is one linebacker legend, Luke Kuechly. He is an absolute legend because of his mind. He was such a cerebral player. I'm sure many of you have seen the clips of him on YouTube calling out plays before they even happened. There's a famous clip of Andrew Whitworth saying that Kuechly called out like 50% of their plays before they were even happening. He's a 7-time Pro Bowler. He's a defensive player of the year. He was the leader of that Carolina defense when they made the Super Bowl. His nickname, Captain America, is very fitting. He's 18 interceptions in his career. He is an absolute baller. He was a Pro Bowler in 7 of his 8 seasons. He was an absolute unit. He led the league in tackles as a rookie and also in his third year. So Luke Kuechly was an absolute legend, and I love Luke Kuechly. Love what he did in the NFL. With the NFL honors, there's the announcement of the Hall of Fame class, but there's also all the awards that are handed out for the players this season. The most important award is the Walter Payton Man of the Year, and that went to one Bobby Wagner of the Washington Commanders. Walter Payton Man of the Year is special because it shows Walter Payton was a phenomenal person. That's why the award is named after him, but it shows dedication to the community and giving back to people that may not have it as good as the players in the NFL or the rest of us. So this means a lot to everyone who wins it, and it's an elite group of people. After that, we go to MVP. One Matthew Stafford of the Rams won MVP. This was the closest MVP race since Peyton Manning and Steve McNair shared the award in 2003. Stafford won by 5 votes, winning 24 first place votes to Drake May's 23. Honestly, I thought that Drake May should have won the MVP. How because of what he was doing with a lesser roster, when you look at his numbers this season, his completion percentage was 72%. He threw for 4,394 yards and 31 touchdowns. The roster around him is not great. He's throwing to Stephon Diggs and Kayshon Boutte, which isn't exactly a stacked receiver room. He did more with less. I'll talk about this more when I do a Super Bowl preview a bit later in the show. I think that Drake May should have won. However, when you look at Stafford's number, he threw for more yards, had more touchdowns. His completion percentage was a bit lower. He only had a 65% completion percentage, but he threw for 4,707 yards and 46 touchdowns. But I will say, it helps when you are throwing to Puka Nacua, who had an absolute insane season with the Rams. He finished second in receiving yards. He had 1,715 receiving yards. So it definitely helps when you're throwing to a receiver like that. And you also have Devontae Adams on the other side. So he definitely had a lot more to work with. He also had Sean McVay, who is an absolute genius when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. Overall, I'm not complaining about either candidate, but I think that May should have won it over Stafford. And then we're going to continue talking about Puka Nacua a bit with the Offensive Player of the Year award. That went to Seattle's Jackson Smith and Jigba. He'll be playing in the Super Bowl this weekend. I'll talk about him a bit there as well. But Jackson Smith and Jigba had an absolutely insane season for the Seahawks. On the season, he had 1,793 yards and 10 touchdowns, 119 receptions as well. That is absolutely insane. An insane stat. He's been making spectacular catches. He made a one-handed catch against the Rams in the NFC Championship. He just snagged it. It looked so smooth, so clean. I absolutely loved watching that. And like I said, Puka Nacua came second in Offensive Player of the Year voting. He was second in receiving yards. He tied for touchdowns, and he had more receptions, but they just favored the receiving yards and probably also the team success as well. Jackson Smith and Jigba is an interesting story because his senior year or his sophomore year at Ohio State, he had a breakout game in the Rose Bowl, an insane stat line against the Utah Utes. I believe he had 4 touchdowns in that Rose Bowl game. He had 347 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns. He averaged 23 yards per reception. So when you look at all that, he was poised to have a breakout junior year, but he was limited. I believe he only played 3 games because of a hamstring injury. So not everybody was sure exactly what he would turn out to be as a pro, but he has been living up to it, absolutely making insane plays in his second or third season in the NFL. So props to him. Third season in the NFL. My apologies for that, but he is an incredible player. And then we go to defensive side of the ball. There was no question about who was going to win it. In fact, it was unanimous for the second time since J.J. Watt won it unanimously in 2014, and that is the freak of nature that lives in Cleveland, Ohio, Myles Garrett. He is Defensive Player of the Year, and there was no debate whether or not he was going to win it. He set the sack record this season. He's a 5-time All-Pro player. He had 23 sacks on the season, which is an absolute insane number. A couple games this season, he had, he had 4 sacks in one game against the Ravens, 5 sacks against New England. So those right there, 4 sacks in a game, 5 sacks in a game. It's absolutely insane what he's done the entire season. And then we go Offensive Rookie of the Year. This was kind of a shoo-in. It went to Teteroa McMillan. He has done miracles for Bryce Young and the Panthers. He's a beautiful jump ball receiver. I like him a lot for them and what he brings and means for the Panthers. On the season, he had 1,014 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. A good jump ball receiver, and he's going to be the future in Carolina when you consider everything that happens there, whether or not they keep Bryce Young and what that situation is. After that, we go back to Cleveland with the Defensive Rookie of the Year. That is one Carson Schlesinger. I planted my flag early in Carson Schlesinger. There are clips of me in my Sports Talk Live talking about Carson Schlesinger winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. He put up some great numbers this season as a rookie. He had 67 solo tackles, 2.5 sacks. He was making great plays all season, and I really like his play. He's a 3-down backer. And that Cleveland defense, I don't know how they do it, but they bring in great players all the time, consistently, no matter what. And then the final award went to Coach of the Year, and that is none other than Mike Vrabel. Honestly, it was going to be Mike Vrabel or Mike McDonald. I like the Vrabel pick because, as I mentioned with May, he was able to do a lot with a lot less. And the Patriots weren't even close to sniffing the playoffs last year. So he completely turned around the roster. They revamped it with free agent signings and the draft. And he's done a great job. I really like him as a coach. And this is a deserved award for him. But that's all the major news that has happened. Mainly focused in the NFL because if you haven't watched, tune in to the NBA trade deadline episode that I put out yesterday. That has everything that happened in trade deadline from Zubac to the James Harden and Kawhi, or James Harden and Darius Garland deal. I also talk about Ayo Dosunmu, Giannis not getting moved. So tune into that for everything you want to hear and know about the NBA trade deadline. But now we're going to look into the standings. We're going to stick with the NBA. In the Eastern Conference right now, the Detroit Pistons are still sitting at the 1 seed. They're 4.5 games ahead of the Knicks and the Celtics, who are tied for second right now. That is pretty chalk. The Pacers are continuing their tank right now, trying to get that number 1 overall pick, trying to get any of those 5 players that are in college right now. You have AJ, you have Cam Boozer, you have a number of other top picks that any team would be happy to get. So there's that. Also, the Cavaliers have been playing well as of late. They're 8-2 in their last 10, which is impressive. Charlotte Hornets have overtaken the Bulls. They're now 9-1 in their last 10. They're on an 8-game winning streak. They made great moves at the trade deadline. I really like what they're doing. And then over in the Western Conference, the Thunder are sitting at 40-12, 4.5 games ahead of the Spurs, 7 games ahead of the Nuggets. But they haven't exactly been playing well. They're 5-5 in their last 10. Shea is out till post All-Star break with, I believe it is an oblique strain. So they have been struggling a bit. And other teams have made moves. I've linked the Denver Nuggets to Cam Thomas after they potentially made room for him. The Timberwolves, they brought in Ayo Dosunmu, another ball handler next to Ant. I really like that for them. And then they're just all cluttered in right there from 3 to 7. The Nuggets, Rockets, Lakers, Timberwolves, and Suns are all cluttered in there really close. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then we'll switch and we'll look at soccer right now in the Serie A. Inter is sitting top of the table with 55 points, 5 points clear of their rivals AC Milan, who are at 50. Napoli is at 46. Juventus hot on their tail with 45. And that rounds out the Champions League teams. However, Roma and Como are only 2 and 4 points behind Juventus, respectively, for that 4th Champions League spot. And those 6 have essentially separated themselves from the rest of the table. Atalanta is 5 points behind, and I don't necessarily see them catching up. And then longtime Serie A team Fiorentina is battling to save themselves. However, they're only 23 games into the season. They still have another 15 left to play, so that's 45 points on the table right there, so a lot can change. And then in the Premier League, Arsenal are now sitting 6 points clear of Manchester City with 53 points. City's at 47 and Villa is at 46. So between City and Villa, anything could really happen. And it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And then you'll have a cluster between 4, 5, and 6. Manchester United has 41 points. Chelsea has 40. Liverpool has 39. So those teams are really fighting for that 4th Champions League spot. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. And much like the Serie A, the top 6 have more or less separated themselves from the rest. Even though Brentford is only 3 points behind Liverpool, I believe that those top 6 are going to end up battling it out for the Champions League spots when everything is said and done. And then we go over to Spain. Shout out to everyone who's in Spain right now, all my friends who are out there studying abroad. Love you guys. Barcelona is still atop the Spanish table. They're at 55 points with Real Madrid hot on their tail with 54. And those top two are going to win the league. It's going to be one or the other because Atletico Madrid is 9 points behind with 45. So it'll come down as it normally does between Barcelona and Real Madrid. I, as a Barcelona fan, I hope that they win. I will always root for them. I can't stand Real Madrid. Their coaching turnover mid-season, giving Xabi Alonso the boot, I wasn't a huge fan of, but it was clear that he wasn't able to manage the egos that are in Real right now. He wasn't able to do as good of a job as Zidane did when he was managing Benzema, Ramos, Ronaldo, and Gareth Bale. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with those two teams. And then finally, we'll look at college hoops. Arizona is still at number one. They're undefeated on the season, 22-0. After that, the top four is rounded out by Michigan, UConn, and Duke. That is unanimous between the AP and the coaches poll. There's no getting around that. After that, you have Miami, Ohio, also undefeated in the top 25 in both the coaches and AP poll. BYU slipped a bit from the last time that I checked. I believe Illinois and Michigan State are going to play. That's going to be a good game. That's going to decide some positioning as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out as we slowly approach March basketball, and we all know what that means. I can't wait for that to happen. I will be turning in as many brackets as humanly possible. So here is to March Madness when it comes around. But that is all the news and all the standings that have happened. Now it is time to get into the main topic of the episode, and that is the Super Bowl happening on Sunday between the Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots in Santa Clara at Levi's Stadium. Welcome to the main topic of the episode, our Super Bowl preview. We got the New England Patriots going against the Seattle Seahawks. So I'm going to start by looking at the Patriots. They've been battling it out with the Broncos all season. Drake May was second in MVP voting behind Matthew Stafford, who won it. I talked about that earlier, the MVP honors. But Drake May is an absolute superstar. He has been making plays and elevating a Patriots offense that is honestly, they're not good. Let's just be honest here. They're not great. But he did that during the regular season. During the postseason, he hasn't exactly been playing well, hasn't been exactly making plays that are ideal for the Patriots, and yet somehow they win. To be fair, they did beat the Chargers, who have a non-existent offensive line, and the Patriots' defense is still very, very good. Melton Williams is playing amazing postseason ball again. And then against the Texans, they played against how do I phrase this? They played against a dumpster at quarterback who had some of the worst turnovers I've ever seen in my life. CJ Stroud played horrendously that game. And that's the only reason they won, because Drake May didn't play much better either. The Texans defense, one of the top defenses in the league, forced turnovers out of them and out of Drake May, forcing fumbles. And then even against the Broncos, Drake May did not play amazing. I believe that if the Broncos were healthy, they had not Jared Stidham. If they had Bo Nix at quarterback, they would have won that game. Jared Stidham, He underthrew a couple balls and overthrew a couple that I believe Bo Nix would have completed those passes. So they have had an interesting path to get here. Drake May hasn't exactly played his best football, and as we know, he can play a whole heck of a lot better. And honestly, when it comes to winning the actual game, I believe Drake May is going to have to put on an MVP performance for them to do that against a Seattle team that is just better on both sides of the ball at this point. And then we're going to look at the Seahawks. The Seahawks have been, for me, top team in the league the entire season. Sam Darnold is proved that he could do it again after going 14-3 with the Vikings last season. He did it again this year. The Seahawks were the 1 seed. They got the bye. They demolished the 49ers in the divisional round. They had touchdowns on special teams. They were making plays all over the field. It was absolutely disgusting and a complete demolition even before the 49ers started putting in all the reserves. And then that's not even touching on Jackson Smith and Jigba. As I talked about earlier, offensive player of the year. He had 1,700, almost 1,800 receiving yards. He was an absolute monster all season, and he's continuing it this postseason as well. He had a beautiful one-handed catch against the Rams, and I believe I was said at the start of the playoffs that whoever comes out of the NFC is going to win a Super Bowl, and I have been on the record saying that the Seahawks and the Rams are going to those two teams, one of them is going to win the Super Bowl. So, let's just get straight into my prediction. I believe that the Seahawks are going to win the Super Bowl, and they're going to win it handily at that. When you look at the offensive side of the football and compare both offenses, you might have Drake May as the top offensive player. It's a debate. It's an honest debate between him and Jackson Smith and Jigba. One is the second for MVP. The other one is Offensive Player of the Year. So that is an honest debate right there for 1 and 2. But when you look at 3 and 4, I'm putting Sam Darnold and Kenneth Walker there over anyone on the Patriots, if we're going to be honest. Who are we going to put there? Travion Henderson, who has not been as consistent as a lot of people would have liked in his rookie season. Or we're going to put Stephon Diggs there, Kayshon Boutte, above Kenneth Walker, Sam Darnold? No. So, however you slice it, Seahawks have at least 3 of the top 5 offensive players in this game. And then when you look at the defensive side of the ball, first of all, Mike Macdonald is a defensive genius. Unlike Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, they're geniuses on the offensive side. Mike Macdonald is a genius on the other side of the football, and he has the players to do so. I will say, I believe Christian Gonzalez is the top defender in this game, but outside of that, it might be, you could honorable mention to Milton Williams, who has been playing well, but the Seahawks have Nick Morey, who did turn his ankle, but he has said he will play. They have Reek Woolen, they have Devin Witherspoon, they have Leonard Williams on the D-line and other D-linemen as well. I am giving the Seahawks 4 of the top 5 defenders as well. It's not close. The talent disparity between the Seahawks and the Patriots right now is immense. But that is honestly something that you would expect for a team that wasn't even close to sniffing the playoffs last year. Mike Vrabel, he won Coach of the Year, deservingly too. The Patriots, they made a ton of offseason moves and deals. And then in the draft as well, bringing in Will Campbell and Travion Henderson. But when you have such a quick turnaround, you can't exactly expect to win the talent battle. So I will pick the Seahawks. However, there are ways in which the Patriots can win. I mentioned Will Campbell. That is one of them right there. He has to prove that he deserves to be a tackle in the NFL in this game. He got demolished in the past couple games and has somewhat been looking like his short arms might deserve to be moved to guard. However, if he can protect Drake May and give him time to pass the ball around the field, we've seen that Drake May can throw the ball and put the ball wherever he wants, no matter what. So that is really key for them. Also, Nick Imanwari, he like I said, he turned his ankle. He said that he's going to play, but it'll be interesting to see what truly happens there. I saw something that people were drawing similarities between the last Super Bowl between the Patriots and the Seahawks. Cam Chancellor tore ligaments in his knee and took him out. And there are a lot of similarities between Nick Imanwari and Cam Chancellor. They're both big, big secondary players. Cam Chancellor has been seen coaching up Nick Imanwari too on the sideline. So if any Patriots fans out there, I know there are Patriots fans all around me. I'm in Massachusetts. If Patriots fans want to believe in destiny, that is something they could believe in right there. But I am going to stick with the Seahawks for this pick. And it's kind of ironic. The Seahawks will have the opportunity to win the Super Bowl in their NFC West rival 49ers Stadium. I know 49ers fans are definitely not happy about it. Some of them that I've talked to, they said they came to the realization that the Seahawks are going to win in the 49ers Stadium, and they are not happy about that at all. So that is everything that I have on the Super Bowl. Not a crazy amount of discussion to be had, honestly, because I believe that it might turn out a bit like it did last year between the Eagles and the Chiefs. I think that the Seahawks will absolutely steamroll over the Patriots, and it won't be that entertaining of a game overall. Okay, welcome to game time. I'm going to play a couple quick games. We're going to do some soccer, some football, some basketball. So let's get right into it. Our first game is going to be guessing all of the Champions League winners since 1956. Let's get started. First team, obviously, Real Madrid. They've won the most of any club, and we'll stick in Spain. We'll go Barcelona. After that, we'll go to England. We'll go Liverpool. We'll go Manchester City, Manchester United. We'll go Chelsea. Arsenal hasn't won anything. Tottenham hasn't won anything. I think Aston Villa has won one. And then Nottingham Forest has also won. We will go to Italy. We'll go Juventus. We'll go Inter. We'll go Milan. Last year, PSG won it. And then we'll go Germany. We'll go Bayern Munich. We'll go Dortmund as well. And then we'll go to Portugal. We'll go Porto. We'll go Benfica. And then after that, we got the Dutch teams. Ajax, Feyenoord, if I can spell that correctly. And then we also have PSV Eindhoven. We got Red Star, Marseille, if I can spell that correctly. And then we also have Bucharest. I believe it's Bucharest, or I will get that team wrong, but it's Prague, Slavia Prague, Prague, I believe. No, Bucharest is one team. There is a team, Bucharest, that has won the Champions League. I guarantee that. And then who else has won? We're going to put Atletico Madrid. Just give it a shout. That is incorrect. Who else has won in... We'll go West Ham. Give that a shout. No. Who else? Who else? We'll go Sporting. Oh, we'll go Celtic. Celtic has won one. And then who else? Celtic. I said Red Star, Belgrade. I can't think of anyone else, so I'm gonna tap out at a minute left. Bucharesti. You all saw me. I said Bucharest. That is the same team, and then completely forgot Hamburg. After that, the next game we are going to play is going to be on Hoopgo, and we are going to do another blind tier list. He is going to go in tier 4. Dame, tier 3. Kyle Korver will put in tier 4. Paul George will put in tier 3. These are shooters. I'm putting Clay in tier 2. Reggie Miller also put in tier 2. Buddy Hield I'll put in tier 4. KD as a shooter I'll put there. Vince Carter I'll put last. Eric Gordon at the top of the pyramid. Oh, I didn't. That is horrible. Oh, wow. That is not great. But we're going to continue on with Hoopka. I really like some of their games. So we are going to do a keep 4, cut 4. We're going to cut Danny Green. We're going to keep Gary Payton, one of the best defenders of all time. Austin Reeves. That is tricky. He has been playing amazingly this season. Controversial, I'm going to keep Austin Reeves. Oh, no, that's not good. Prime, I got to keep Russell Westbrook. Oh, I'm benching Anthony Davis and James Worthy. I don't like this at all. I'm keeping Kobe Bryant. Last player, Robert Horry. Not horrible. I shouldn't have kept Austin Reeves, though. Austin Reeves has no business being there. He should have been swapped out for, honestly, James Worthy. I'm not a huge fan of Anthony Davis, so not horrible. And then the final NBA game that I'm going to do a start, bench, cut. Interesting. Rasheed Wallace, Pascal Siakam, and Jalen Duren. I think I have to go like this. I think so. Most people agree with me on that. Jalen Duren, he did make the All-Star game this year, but I still think the other two are clearly better than him. Another one, Zach LaVine, Jalen Johnson. I'll go Zach LaVine. I'll keep it in that order right there. I like that order. A lot of people think that Jalen Johnson is a top player. Interesting. Wow. Dude, people don't remember when Bradley Beal was scoring 30 points per game with the Wizards. He was a great player back then, and I really, really enjoyed watching him. And then One final. Oh, we're ending it with a bang here. Okay. Interesting. Wow. Shaq, Jokic, and Wilt. I'm putting Wilt in cut partially because he played against plumbers and some of those numbers are fraudulent. Where's the proof he scored 100 points? Where's the film? Where's the proof other than 100 scribbled on a piece of paper with that's not I can't even call it a Sharpie because I don't even know if Sharpies existed way back when in 1630 or whenever the heck Wilt played. The real debate, Shaq versus Jokic. I'm going to go recency bias. I'm going to put Jokic at start and I'm going to bench Shaq. 51% of people had Shaq above Jokic. Really? That's honestly debatable. I'm not going to complain about that too much. We're going to play a round of Poto. We're going to guess an NBA player. We're not going to look at the silhouette. First player we're going to throw out is Steph Curry, a shooting guard in the East. Taller than 6'2", younger. We're going to go Jaylen Brown. I just guessed it on the second guess. You would not believe that if you did not see that on film. That is a miracle right there. Absolutely love that. And then we are going to do some NFL games. Okay, we are going to build a lineup with these players. Interesting. First player up. I am going to take. Honestly, Cam Ward at $2 is not a bad shout. I like that. After that, who else do we pick here? Do we get the do-it-all running back with Bijan, Woody Marks, Wandale Robinson, Troy Franklin, Isaiah Royal, George Tonges, local guy in the Bay Area. Love him. Jake Ferguson, Harold Fannin. Ooh, this is tough. I got $13 remaining. Would it be devious if yeah, that would be if I took Mahomes, DK Metcalf. Oh, but I could. That is tough. Troy. Do I take Bijan and then Jake Tongas? I'm gonna stick with that honestly, because I believe that Mahomes could do a lot with that roster. He's proven to do a lot with a lot less. So I'll stick with that roster right there. Submit the lineup. Not bad, not bad. And those are all of the NFL games. Now we're going to do some soccer. We're going to hide the picture. First player, Bruno Fernandes. They're in the Premier League and they play for United. They're not a midfielder. And they are younger. They are younger than 31. Matthijs de Ligt. 26 years old, not a defender. So, who else do we have? Lisandro Martinez is on the attack. Or, no, he's a defender. My apologies for that. Who else do we have on United. I have 5 guesses left. Off to a decent start. We know his age, his team. So he's 26-year-old for United. He is most likely in the attack to some capacity. Mason Mount. I don't believe he's the right age. Oh, okay. They got Ryan Sesko, I believe, or Benjamin Sesko. He is a forward. Confirmed he is a forward. Okay. 3 guesses left. Cunha. I think so. And it is Mateus Cunha. Love that. That is a phenomenal guess right there. And that will be the end of game time for today. And then we're going to take a look at the upcoming schedule for a couple interesting games that are going to happen. Tonight, we have the Knicks against the Pistons, 7 p.m. That is a great game. As I mentioned before, the Knicks are the 2 spot behind the Pistons in the East. And then on Saturday, we have the Rockets playing against the Thunder at 3:30. That is also an interesting game, even though the Thunder, as I mentioned, have been struggling. They're 5-5 in their last 10. And then Sunday is what's really interesting. You have the Celtics and the Knicks. They're tied for second in the East right now, and that could really have some major implications if they're tied as head-to-head, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Also, both teams made some moves at the trade deadline. It'll be interesting to see how those moves impact their roster. And then finally, the last NBA game before the new show coming out on Tuesday will be the Thunder and the Lakers. This will be on 10 p.m. Eastern on Monday. And honestly, it'll be interesting to see what the Lakers look like. They added Luke Kennard as the spacer at the trade deadline. So I want to see how Luka plays with that and what JJ Redick schemes up with that, and how the Oklahoma City, after adding Jared McCain, a much needed spacer for them as well, how these 2 spacers impact these teams. And then we go over to college basketball. There are some amazing games coming up. First game is at 6:30 Eastern on Saturday. We got number 4 Duke against number 14 North Carolina. This is always one of the best games of the season. That rivalry is honestly top 2 in the country, right behind the game between Ohio State and the team up north, which I will not speak their name. So that is a great game right there. And that is followed up by number 5 Illinois hosting number 10 Michigan State at 8 p.m. That is also on Saturday. That will determine some seeding right there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And then we continue a great Saturday slate at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. We have number 8 Houston against number 16 BYU, led by AJ DeBonsa. So that is also an incredible game. I can't wait to sit back tomorrow and just watch all of those games. It is going to be such a great time, and I cannot wait. And then on Monday, we have number 1 undefeated Arizona versus number 11 Kansas at 9 p.m. That is also going to be an incredible game. Arizona has been dominating this season, and Kansas has also been playing well, so I am very much looking forward to that game as well. And then we're going to switch to the pitch and go across the pond to England with 2 amazing games in the Premier League. The first one is Manchester United against Tottenham Hotspur at 7:30 a.m. on Saturday. Like I said, United is sitting at 4 on the table right now, and a win over Tottenham could really boost them. Jimmy Carrick is coaching extremely well right now, and United is playing with their hair on fire, living up the name of the Red Devils. I am going to tune into that absolutely. And then we're going to follow that up with two of the best teams in the Premier League over the past 6 seasons, with Liverpool playing against Manchester City at 11:30 on Sunday. This is going to be a great game to watch. If you didn't tune in, Liverpool scored 3 amazing goals between Soboslai, Frimpong, and Florian Wirtz. 3 amazing goals in their cup game. So they are in great form, and City is also playing well. They have amazing players. So that is something that I will tune into, and I have a fantastic slate of games to watch before the next show. So thank you for tuning in to this episode 2 of In His Bag. Follow all the socials. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, leave a comment. If you're listening on Spotify, follow, leave a comment on there. I appreciate everything. If you can follow on the social medias, on the Instagram, the TikTok, I'll post reels on there. Occasionally I'll post breaking news, but mostly short form reels, entertaining stuff, blind rankings, things like that. So thank you for listening, and I will see you on Tuesday for all the news that has happened since this show.